Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us again here at Comerit's podcast. What's Up Enterprise, where we explore the latest technology and trends across industries with leading experts around the globe. Today, I'm super excited to have someone who I've had the pleasure of watching her expand her career, get started early on in your technology career, and then grow and become the CEO of OMD India, which has, they're one of the largest media firms in the world right now with over 100 plus. You guys are out there in over 100 plus countries, I think, at this point. But before I get started, let me get Anisha to just say hello and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit
Hello,
about
hello.
your background.
Hello, everybody, and hello, David. How nice to connect with you after, I think, eons. I
Eons.
was, yeah. So it's been about almost 20 years of advertising for me, and a little more than that with technology, maybe 5 more years of that. So 25 years in the business, 20 years of advertising. The early 5 years of technology, I think, set me up in some sense. But yeah, briefly, I'm through and through. I'm a creative person. I have no idea why I started with technology. I was good at it, but that wasn't. I don't think that was my calling. I think creativity was at the center of it, and being able to meet people, interact with people with different cultures, speak to them, etc. So, coding in front at the back of a machine in a corner office and not meeting people, that was very lonely. That wasn't my thing at all. So yeah, so I mean, I started my career with recruitment side of the business in SAP, and then moved on to web design eventually, which I stuck to technology, and then completely pivoted to advertising. I still stuck to technology though, because it was digital advertising that I started my advertising career with. And then from there, digital became more mainstream became strategic, became organization wide, and then everything kind of culminated together. And yeah, now I'm running an agency. That's a long
Running a
bit.
very large agency. I want to be able to talk a little bit about my work experience with Anisha. I just remember I started my career as probably my second major company that I was running an SAP consulting organization with. And I remember I used to have a lot of challenges because it, I mean, when you're dealing with SAP, you're usually dealing with the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000. These things are important. And I remember going into helping organizations and them looking at me and saying, yeah, we're going to work with you and we're going to basically put all our trust in you that you'll bring in the right resources for us to do this multi-million dollar project. And I remember thinking, okay, how am I going to do this? And then working with Anisha, and she'd calm me down. Don't worry, we got this covered. And one of the things I noticed right away working with Anisha was that she was literally one of the hardest working, most intelligent people I've ever spent time with. And you're probably one of the youngest people in our entire company at that time.
Yeah,
But you would
I was
literally, it's like,
19.
yeah, I remember you're 19. That is wild.
Yeah, I was 19.
That's just absolute, and I love that because I remember you saying, I was very nervous one time. We had to produce a team of people by Monday. It was like Friday, and you're like, go to sleep. You'll be fine. And I'm thinking, how am I going to go to sleep? All these people have to be on site on Monday. And half the people, we didn't even know whether or not they had, like
Yeah.
the skill sets didn't even exist. And you said, no, go to sleep. And I could remember throughout the periods of times doing the same thing with projects. It's mission critical. We needed a lot of people. And Anisha said, yeah, no problem. We got it covered. And I said to you, you know what, Anisha, one day you're going to be the CEO of a company. That's
Great.
exactly what I said.
You called it out the first.
And I really did call it out. And I think along my career, I've been very fortunate to work with some incredible leaders, right? Very much like yourself. And I think for me, my success has been to be able to be surrounded by people like yourself that had incredible work ethics and leadership. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, how that has helped you in your career. And, you did go into some details about how you went from recruiting into marketing. Can you tell us a little bit about that story? I think that's an interesting story.
Sure. Look, I think throughout my journey in my career, it's and I don't know whether it's an advantage or not. I mean, more often than not, I think I treat it as one. But the fact that you're too young comes up fairly often. And I mean, at the beginning, it would kind of intimidate me a little bit, and therefore I would work twice as hard as I honestly needed to. I didn't need to work that hard, but I just would, just to ensure that age didn't become a problem. But over a period of time, it started to get funny, because what you're able to bring to the table, in my view, is if you've managed to cover experiences in whatever time, if you've managed to, like, for example, I have worked in 5 different countries in the world, and working in another country, in another culture, even for a year, is equal to working 5 years in your homeland anyway, because you experience so much more when it comes to adjusting with other cultures and languages, ways of working, ways of living, and things like that. So in my view, I the tag that was put on me to say that you're too young, it may not happen, give it some time, you need wisdom, your hair isn't gray yet, and how would you know how to pick up a leadership role and things like that. But over a period of time, I think if you're focused, so someone once said to me, I can't remember, many years ago, someone once said to me, dress for the role that you want to achieve versus for the role you're in right now, or speak like you're already in the next role
Oh,
that you're
wow.
aiming for, versus speaking for where you are now. I did that. I mean, some thought it was egoistic, but it wasn't. And but over a period of time, I self learned a lot. I would observe a lot, I would ask a lot of questions. I was very annoying to a lot of my earlier bosses in that sense, because I'd want to know, why did you do that, why did you say that, why did you not do that instead, I thought this one was better, why was that not better. And then the more you ask, the more they're interested in, I mean, beyond a point, they'll answer those questions, and then you learn, and then you work even harder to try and get. And then I would practice it randomly. So on a not so important client, I would go say things which I learned from someone else, and just test and see how they'd react. And then they'll call back and say, I like this girl, I'd let her work on this, and you don't need to monitor her anymore. So more often than not, that works. So it's been a lot of trial and error. It's been a lot of beating stereotypes. It hasn't been easy. I'm an Indian woman, that makes it even harder, and I'm young, so that's even harder.
Well, you worked in you did so
So
one of the countries you worked in was in the US. You worked here for a
I
little
worked
while.
there. I
It's
worked in Vietnam, in Malaysia, in Thailand, and in India.
one of our sayings over here is fake it till you make it.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
one of our things, right?
That's
So,
what advertising is all about.
well, I mean, there's a good point to that. But honestly, you definitely exude a lot of leadership skills. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about that. Like, what are some of the important leadership qualities that helped you with the media industry? I mean, you certainly have them. I could name a bunch, but I'm just curious, like, which ones do you think specifically helped you in the media industry?
So, okay, look, I mean, this is evidence over a period of time, conversations with multiple people and things they've said to me. So I've kind of just
Yeah.
assimilated all of these for myself. I think one of the things that people do appreciate about me is I'm brutally honest, and I don't hold things back. So it took me a while to understand why one needs to be politically correct sometimes, because I don't get it. I will call it as it is. But then I mean, of course, as you grow up, as you mature, you learn tact a little bit. But having said that, at the core of me, I'm still very honest. So a lot of the people who work with me, they stick with me only because they know they'll get the full picture. Whether the final answer is a yes or a no, they'll know why. I won't hide it. So yeah, I mean, honesty has definitely worked for me. That's something that's, yeah, I mean, personally as well as professionally, that's really worked for me. The other thing also, I think I'm slightly more fearless than I should be. And
Fearless for sure.
yeah. And I'm okay going wrong, and I'm okay standing up and saying sorry. I'll be the first one, in fact, to stand up and admit a mistake faster than anyone else. And a lot of people appreciate that. So I'll give you an example. So we were having trouble with one of our clients some time ago, and he wanted to call in a review. So he called for the meeting, and he wanted to present his side of the story to us, saying, you guys suck, and here are the problems, and blah blah blah. And I said, why don't you give me 5 minutes before you begin? He said, sure. So I put up a presentation which said 10 reasons why we suck. And
That's crazy.
I called out everything. And
Wow.
I said, here are the 10 reasons that you're having trouble right now. Here are the 10 things I will do in 3 months, in 6 months, in 9 months. Monitor me. And at the end of 9 months, we'll talk. And that meeting ended. He said, go, you're good. Deliver these, and we're good. And today he's one of my dearest clients after so many.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm a little strange in my
No,
ways.
no, but I think that honesty, I think for me, those were two of the strongest things I would say too. That, I mean, you were fearless. Like for whatever reason, and it was my second major company, no third major company when we worked together. So by now I shouldn't have even had any fear. And I wasn't too bad, but like I still had this sense like, hey, I'm this young executive trying to make it in a Fortune 500 company, helping these people. And yeah, I had some fear, but for you, no problem. We have this. No one could be, as correct as we could be. But I think that was definitely one of major characteristics. But I guess I think this is something I could learn as a lesson. Sometimes I don't want to own up to, hey, I screwed up. I don't
It's
want
all
to be
right to
that
do that.
guy.
I think it helps more often than it doesn't.
Wow.
And I always stand up and say sorry if it's a mistake. Always. I never shy away from it. Even if it's a mistake that someone else hasn't figured out yet, I'll admit it, make them figure it out, and say, look, there's an error, and that's me, and I'm
Interesting.
sorry. Yeah. So that's the other thing. And I think the last thing, in my view, at least summing everything up, is I have a really high EQ, and that kind of, I mean, it's counterintuitive to being out there and fearless and whatever else, but there's immense sense of empathy in me as a person as well. So I will look after you if you're in my team, or if you're a client or you're a partner, tremendously, and I will value everything that you value. I'll give you your space to do what you need to. I will understand everything that needs to be understood, as long as there's accountability to work and accountability to everything we need to deliver. I'm probably one of the funnest person, people to have around. Like, I can have people call me and say, look, it's my wife's birthday. If I don't take the day off today, she's going to be mad at me. And I'll be like, sure, just don't even bother, stay at home, do your thing. And that's not very accepted in Asian culture, because you have a stipulated number of holidays you can take in a year, and everything's connected to your payroll and blah blah blah. And I wouldn't bother. I'm like, please go, make merry, have a good day.
Yeah, I have to say, I feel very fortunate to have actually experienced all of these things here. And, I never even thought about age, gender, any of those things. I just
Yes.
remember you being a true leader and you willing to coach and help me. Now, I will say I know your father too, and he's quite wise as well. So
Yeah.
I think, he definitely a lot of his wisdom passed right down to
Yeah.
you. But
Yeah.
at a very young age, you were able to coach me. And I think, like I said, I was on my third company where I was running the SAP practice. So, I feel very fortunate to have had time to spend with you. I wanted to ask you because today we are embarking upon a new world of technology, right? So back then, and I thought I'd be out of SAP in 10 or 15 years, and here I am 25 years, and I'm still working in the same industry. It's quite interesting because there are changes in technology. And I'm really curious how you see what's going on today and how, let's just point it out, artificial intelligence, how it is evolving within the growth of social media and other digital platforms. I mean, yeah, what's your opinion on what you see happening now?
Look, tech has redefined advertising and marketing to a great deal, over the years, I think. Every industry has been touched by technology, and advertising hasn't been spared in that sense. More and more, in fact, in advertising, technology sits front and center to everything. From the time you start thinking about what you want to market, how much you want to spend marketing, where you want to market, who you want to talk to, what do they do, where do you find them, what tone and manner should you talk to them, what are their interests like, will they respond to you, will they not, will they be annoyed by this, will they not, will they share this, will they not, will they approve of this, will they not, will they diss you publicly, will they not. A lot of these things today, to a large extent, mind you, can be predicted. It's not entirely unpredictable because there's so much history and so much data and so many examples over a period of time that it's not completely impossible to get a broad sense of whether this is going to work or not. In fact, today AI has matured to a stage where, depending on the manner in which your eyes move, it can tell you whether a piece of advertising is good or not.
That's really wild.
Yeah. So we use a tool at Omnicom where when you make a television commercial, you can upload it on the tool, and then the tool looks at all of the gazillion data points at the back end based on retina tracking, and it would tell you on the 13th second of the commercial, focus went down. On the 15th second, it came back up. On the 18th second, you lost them, and things like that. And therefore, you can
Wow.
adjust. Yeah, you can adjust your advertising, to kind of make it as optimal as you can. So it's incredible, the kind of learnings or the kind of nuances that you can get. In fact, today we can, sitting here at the click of a button, I can tell you, if you're a company that sells 100,000 units today and you want to sell 200,000 units tomorrow, I can tell you exactly how many dollars to spend to get to that sales number.
Wow.
Yeah. So it is pretty incredible the way technology has come together, the way analytics has come together, the way, I think data empowers us more than anything else. And I've grown up in the digital age. I've done most of my marketing in and around digital platforms. I used to do text messaging advertising at one point on mobile phones, which was like so old. And you would get annoyed after a certain point, getting those messages. And
Yeah.
then that's now evolved to VR glasses, and you can, reach wherever else with a mobile phone. So it's incredible.
Are you
Uh,
guys doing some marketing with VR in the VR space also?
yeah, of course we
Oh,
do.
wow. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I
No,
get
there's a
dizzy
lot.
when I wear
There's,
them. So,
you can just, just look at the manner in which a lot of these brands are doing, utilizing the metaverse, for example, utilizing podcasts, for example, using interesting ways in advertising on a Spotify, for example, or integrating with your watch gears and running bracelets and things like that to kind of promote, health products and things like that. It's incredible. The opportunities are insane.
so you guys, so you still do a lot of data driven type decision making, but how do you
Yes.
balance your creativity? Because I know at the beginning of this, you talked about you went in this more because of your
Yes.
creativity. How do you balance the
Yes.
two?
Honestly, data makes creativity slightly more intuitive. So let me give you an example. Okay. So Mercedes Benz is a client we work with, right? And they have various cars for various kinds of people, for various settings, for various mindsets, blah, 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 things like that. The minute you start slicing your consumer and you understand someone is going to buy a 4x4, for example, because he likes to go on a long drive with his family and he wants to run up a hill and do some adventure and blah, 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 versus someone else who's a top executive, wants a chauffeur driven car and wants a nice S class, wants to go to work, reading a newspaper at the back, and like sit down, take his time, have his coffee, whatever else. And then the minute you know these guys, then creativity is so easy because then to the S class guy, you'll never tell him go uphill on a mountain and go spend a weekend. You'll never say that in your ad. And and at the same time, you don't want to tell a guy who wants to drive the car, saying, enjoy the pleasure of the chauffeur opening the door for you. He doesn't care. He doesn't want to do that. So a lot of copywriting becomes very intuitive the minute you understand who you're speaking to and what makes sense to them. I'll give you another example. This one's the best. So we were promoting an Advil equivalent, okay, a pill, an OTC pill for a headache. And we said, why don't we do moment marketing and then look at times in the day when you expect someone to have a headache and then tell them why to do pockets. Okay. So, for example, I've had a long day, chances are I'll get a headache, or I forgot my glasses at home today, chances are I'll get a headache, or whatever. There's traffic on the road, chances are I'll get a headache. And then we started to understand audiences better, only to discover about a couple of months later, that one of the highest incidences of headache are people on dating websites.
Wow.
You would have never guessed.
No, maybe because
Yeah.
that's so does
So,
dating give them the headache or
yes, because they can't find someone.
oh my gosh. That's
Yeah.
great.
So, job sites and dating sites were the two places
Wow.
where the incidence of headache was the highest.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So, that was incredible nuggets of data.
So we talked about data, we talked about AI, but you also mentioned that one thing that'll never go away is our ability to connect as people, right? You
Yeah.
mentioned to this. So, I mean, I think technology is a fantastic thing, and AI is allowing us to enhance the things that we can already do. But I think you also brought up a point, and this is very specific to your personality too. Besides you having this intelligence, you have this EQ, this ability to have empathy. I think there's another level of what you're that makes you a leader, right? That allows you to interact with people at a level that makes them comfortable with you and then make decisions with you or choose to use OMD. So can you talk a little bit more about like why do you believe that AI is an enhancement but not a replacement for what we do?
Yeah, look, if AI was to take over the world, it would have already, okay? It wouldn't. And one of the simplest reasons for that is you're selling eventually to human beings, you're not selling to machines. And if you're a person, then eventually at some point in the purchase experience, you have to interact with another person. Even if it's even if you're buying something online, the person eventually giving it to you is the delivery guy who comes out and says, "Hi,
Yeah,
good evening,
that's
here's your
true. Yeah.
box." Right? So you're not devoid of human interaction. I mean, COVID kind of, I don't know, kind of made us realize what it would look like if you stopped interacting with human beings. No one liked it. Nobody
No,
liked
right.
it.
I believe
So,
that.
yeah. So, no matter, look, machines can make you intelligent faster. I think machines can teach you to make lesser mistakes. Machines can, and when I say machines, I mean AI, any kind of data or tech. It can help you make decisions faster. It can definitely shrink the time taken for your learning curve to get to some place, but it still cannot avoid the need for people. I mean, for example, some of the best advertising legacy you've always seen from Nike, with what they do with the experiences. And beyond a point, no matter how much information they got from data and machine learning, eventually some human sat down and drew something on a piece of paper and said, "That's how beautiful it's going to look, and that's why it looks beautiful." So I think for any marketing to be, look, once in a while you can roll out some stuff using machines, but it's not sustainable. To my mind, I don't think it's more important than humans either. I mean, I would give it a 60-40 ratio, 60 to humans, 40 to machines. And that's okay, at least today, at least for the next foreseeable 5-10 years, 5 years at least. It should be okay because the world's changed. No one was prepared for COVID. AI was not. Humans were not. We're coming out of it. We're not still 100% out of it, but we are coming out of it. And then suddenly, this new world, no one understands. It's a new world order. The benchmarks are new, the norms are new, the way people would react are new. In India today, extremely high luxury products are selling, extremely affordable stuff is not selling. I mean, it's crazy. So
What?
there's
I need to
there's
look at those analytics.
so there's that. I mean, you just can't predict anything anymore. You take each day as it comes, and there's got to be some amount of okay, let me put it this way. I think the one thing that AI misses is common sense, because it will give you all of the machine language right in front of you, and you look at the data, and then you look at one thing in it, and you'll be like, that is just wrong. That is just
It's
intuitively
it's an intuitive
so
thing,
wrong.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then you look at it and you'll be like, no, but if I tweak it like that, it might just be magic. And for that, you need a person. I'm
So
a human.
humans still have a
Of
solid
course.
edge,
Of
especially when it
course.
comes to intuition, I would imagine, right?
We're God's most complex creatures. There's
I
a
agree
reason.
to that.
the reason he made it. I don't know if he regrets it now or not, but that's the reason he made us.
Well, Anisha, in our final minute, so if our clients out there wanted to engage OMD, how would they do that? I mean, it sounds, do you have to be an elite client to be able to engage OMD or?
No, we have an incredible team across the world. We have an incredible team, and we're headquartered in the US actually. So
Oh,
a
fantastic.
lot,
Yeah.
yeah. And we are absolutely the best and definitely the largest in the US. Where it's an outstanding team. Anywhere you meet us, and in fact, a lot of this honesty, empathy, a lot of the need to be agile and data driven and digital and creative and quick on your feet is very OMD, is very intrinsic to our culture. All of us behave the same,
That's
more
awesome.
often than not. Yeah, I
Well,
was shameless
I
trending look.
I feel so fortunate to have you as my friend and mentor throughout the years, and I really appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today. I
Of
hope
course,
we can bring you back again. And,
sure.
you know, yeah, this is exciting. I mean, to watch someone go from, I remember from the early days to where you're at. It's, congratulations. You've done a fantastic job.
Thank you very much, David.